Hello everyone, welcome in Puzzling Perspective by RZAIN Society. Today,
I'm interviewing John Wright, the VP Mobile Publishing at Kwalee. Nobody needs to introduce John. He's one of the main leaders of our gaming industry, but he's also an amazing person who always gets the best insight for everyone, no matter who you are. He's sharing on LinkedIn several tips on a daily basis and used to work at Ironsource, Luna Labs, and also is now VP Mobile Publishing at Kwalee, I investor, and also at Deezer. I hope you have a good one.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited today for this podcast. I'm with my host, John Wright, who is an amazing person, VP at Kwalee, but also worked in some of the major company out of there. He's a real force for good. How are you, John?
Yeah, I'm good, Claire. I'm good. It's Monday morning. Another week ahead. A lot of stuff to be done, but a lot of good stuff. Hopefully, I've just come back from Cyprus where I was at GDCY, so that was very cool. I've never been to Cyprus, so one of the benefits of working in this industry is getting to travel to do what you love. So but I'm also very happy to be back with my family now. So overall, very good.
I love this, John. I think you are a real force for good. And when I think about mobile master, I think about you like you are top of my mind for several reasons because you are highly knowledgeable, but also because when I define a leader, I really see someone like you. So I'm really interested to get to know you a bit more. Can you introduce yourself about our audience and tell us like where you're from, where did you start, and basically a bit about your journey?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you for inviting me, Claire. It's a real privilege to be here. I also a big fan, and we've known each other a long time. So really, really proud of what you're achieving right now, and again, you're doing amazing things. So yeah, look, to introduce myself briefly. So I'm John Wright. I'm the current Vice President of Mobile Publishing at Kwalee. Kwalee are a UK developer and publisher of both mobile and PC games. Originally, we were founded by David Darling, who's also the founder of Codemasters, which is one of the most successful gaming companies in British history. It actually sold to EA for 1.3 billion. So that's this is David's second company after doing that. And essentially, yeah, we're working predominantly in the hybrid casual and casual spaces. We do come from a hyper casual background, but same as a lot of people in the industry, which we know we've transferred over to that, and we'll talk a bit more about that in terms of trends later. But yeah, look, going on my background, so originally I actually started in finance. I come from a very working class background. I'm from a council estate in East London, one of the toughest neighbourhoods, in London, in the UK. And when I was growing up, it was very important to my parents that I was educated, and I did well in school, and but realistically speaking, they didn't know. My mum's a hospice nurse and my dad was a builder, right? So they didn't have a great education themselves. Both of them actually dropped out of school at 15. My mum to look after her dying mother, and my dad to help put money on the table because he had a big family. And both of them didn't have the greatest education because they were forced through family situations to go out there and make money, which again made them endure like a real sort of strong work ethic into me. And again, education, working hard has always been extremely important because I look at how tough things were for me and my brother growing up, and my parents did everything to give us what they could, right? So super important. But yeah, so I started off my career in finance. I did essentially something called an AAT, Association of Accounting Technician, and then something else called a CIMA, a Chartered Institute of Management Accounts, which is basically like two sort of diplomas in accountancy. And I went into finance. I was working at big companies doing management accounts, and I fucking hated my life. Hated it. And because you at that age, when you're 16, 17, 18, you don't really know what you want to do with your life, right? And you make these massive decisions which you have no idea how if that's the right thing for you. Like at 16, 18, even 20, you're still kind of a child, right? So I made these big decisions, which were definitely the wrong ones. And then at like 25, 26 was when I realized, you know, I really wanted to do something that I was passionate about and do something that I enjoy. I wanted to go to work and be happy at my decisions, and I wanted to do something that made me happy, rather than, you know, being a management accountant. It was basically making rich people richer, right? Like that's what I was doing, and it wasn't who I am, right? I was just doing it because it was paying good money, and I didn't want to, you know, you always want to provide for your family better than the previous generation, and it's all about that leveling up from your social status and stuff like that. So I did it, and then so it took me about a year or two to break into gaming, and eventually I got a job at Green Man Gaming, which is like a British company that does PC and Steam games. Like, you know, sells them, you know, reseller online, and they also do some PC publishing. I was there for a little bit, and then I actually got headhunted to join Ironsource as a senior account manager in their European gaming team. And that was really the moment where I started to make, you know, bigger moves and start to learn. So there was a lot of transferable skills from finance and to performance marketing. It's a lot of like numbers, a lot of calculations, a lot of understanding profitability. And then that combined with my lifelong passion for games. Like one of my earliest memories is playing Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega. And, you know, it's such something that I love, like truly love. Sports and games, two of the things I love most in my family, obviously. But those things are just things that I absolutely adore. And, you know, again, combining these transferable skills from finance into performance marketing was really where I started to make progress. And then, you know, I spent, you know, 4 or 5 years in Ironsource, you know, developing, growing, getting promoted. So I went from senior account manager to director of strategic accounts, where I was looking after, you know, billions of dollars in UA spends for some of Europe's biggest clients, you know, and I worked with everyone from Ubisoft to King to Outfit 7, and, you know, I would say at one point or another I was involved somewhat in any of the big European business. And then after leaving Ironsource, I went to a startup called Luna Labs, where I was part of the founding team, and I was the vice president of operations. Which was probably the highlight of my career, was building a huge team at Luna, going from a couple of people to, you know, 50, 60 people, and then Luna eventually exiting to Ironsource. So I left Ironsource, did the startup thing, and then obviously we sold the business to Ironsource, and I ended up, you know, coming back. And then Unity acquired Ironsource, and then I ended up joining Unity. So and I was at Unity, you know, probably for about 18 months before I decided to leave to Kwalee. And again, similar role to Ironsource. I was looking, instead of the European business, I was looking after the global business, you know, client success. And it was very much my job to make sure that people were getting, you know, as much value from Unity's products, especially the creative suite, that, you know, Luna's product, which I was in charge of. And it's making sure that everyone, just gets the value from their investment. They get the best service, they get the best results, and we provide them with the best technology. So quite a long summary, but that's who I am.
It's insane and really impressive, like several exits, some key growth in some of the biggest company, generating the most revenue in gaming as well and in tech. It's really impressive, John, and it really shows, you know, it really fits, you know, what you share, like how passionate you are, dedicated and authentic as well. I think it's what makes the difference in performance. For today, I'm super curious about publishing, and I think it's something our audience is really, you know, sometimes excited, sometimes curious about. So, John, can you tell us more about what is publishing, what is expected in publishing, from you know, your perspective of expert, and now working in one of the biggest publishing company, basically?
Yeah, sure. So I think that publishing is something that is very important in the current landscape. Essentially, a few years ago, when hyper casual was booming, it was quite common for companies to self-publish. Like, you could be, a small company of 20 people, and you could build a game and have the marketing expertise and everything else to successfully launch a game and potentially generate tens of millions of dollars, Claire, right? Like there was plenty of developers out there who were doing that. And this was like, for me, in the last sort of, I don't know, 10, 12 years since I've been in gaming, this was like the golden era, because it was like you could be an underdog, right? You could be the small company, you could find success. And there was a lot of real sort of success from companies that, a couple of years previously would have never been able to launch a game to that scale and that success. So what's happened now is, because of the sort of headwinds in the industry and post ATT, and we all know that UA has got tremendously more difficult than it was a few years ago. Like if you speak to any senior people in big studios that are focusing on UA as a predominant driver of getting users into their game, you'll say they're spending half or a quarter of what they were spending a few years ago, right? Because of how much harder it's become. So all of these sort of like recent headwinds over the last 2-3 years, they made it even more difficult for small developers to actually become successful, because ultimately they just don't have the expertise or the resources or the finances to be able to do it, because it got so much more difficult. Where a publisher steps in is, like, a publisher essentially is a large company with much more resource or financial backing, and they have the ability to go to market and find some of these really positive, really good quality, really strong studios that by themselves will not be able to find the level of success they need to to launch the game to the top of the charts. So the publishing relationship for the developer in particular is one of necessity now, because they won't be able to potentially do what they did a few years ago. So again, the publisher comes in, it's about finding these good quality games in studios that do deserve a shot of success, and the publisher's job is to work alongside them, providing all of those resources, that funding, that expertise, that direction. And then ultimately it's a relationship of working on a revenue share. So the developer would build the game, we provide all of the marketing resources, we cover all of the UA, the burn rate of the studio, all of that stuff, and then there is a commercial agreement that we both get a percentage of the revenues, depending on the deal size and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really, for me, it's about supporting those small companies that won't have the ability to get into the top of the charts, or make millions of dollars, just because they just don't have the ability to right now.
I love it, and I feel like publisher are the steps. I love the most, to be honest. I think like there is so much talent that publishers they develop, they publish, they make grow, where VCs or other investment firms wouldn't have trust them, even if they would have really strong KPIs and also some really good examples top of the chart. So I truly enjoy a lot what you are doing. Are you seeing a pattern of game developer that succeed better than others, even beyond the KPI, like even beyond the retention and so on, team-wise? Are you seeing some team dynamics that you feel are more effective than some others?
In terms of the style of team or the strategy, so I think right now, Claire, I'd say probably the biggest trend for most developers is, and we'll go back to the VC bit in a second as well, because I think that's really important. I want to talk about that because I know you've been very vocal about that, and I also want to talk about that. But I would say if there was a particular trend that I am seeing right now where people are getting the highest levels of success or the highest level of conversion to success, it is that transition from hyper casual to hybrid. So whilst there are like a tremendous amount of studios that were successful during hyper casual, and again, if you look back at the charts a couple of years ago, you'll during that hyper casual phase, you'll see a higher number of studios, like names, in the charts than you do now. Now it's very top heavy, right? Like the names in the charts are the same names. There's not that much change anymore because of how much harder it's become. There is an exception, which is there are certain companies that have transitioned from hyper to hybrid very well. And the idea is that they're still taking a lot of, you know, their mentality and strategy of like fail fast, you know, develop core mechanic, you know, in a very positive and very sort of strategic way to what they're seeing in the market, following marketing trends and how marketing influences product. Like there's a lot of stuff that people learn in hyper that can be applied to hybrid. The difference becomes the size of the team and the cost of the team and the delivery and the production quality has to be higher, right? For example, you know, we go from doing 1 week prototypes or 2 weeks prototypes to now having to do, you know, 6 to 12 week prototypes to be able to get to the same thing. And obviously there is a cost implication to do that, right? Equally, you're reducing the number of shots on goal you have, so your quality has to be better because, you know, each project is quite expensive. And if you're trying to self-fund as well, you know, if you've got a burn rate and you haven't got revenue coming in, then, you know, the longer it takes, the less money you have, right? And I know you're going through this with your own business, Claire, right? It's the balancing act. It's tough, man. You know, like it's and so yeah, that I think the guys who are transitioning are the ones that are more likely to be successful. And look, again, I've been very open and said this on a bunch of different platforms, but I do think hybrid is a stepping stone to casual. And I think the problem is that people can't go from hyper to casual because casual can be a 1 year development cycle, right? Whereas hyper was 4 weeks. And most companies don't have the ability to make, like, they don't have enough money to get to a product. And that's if you make your first product is successful, let alone adding in, you know, failure. Like, okay, it takes you 6 months to find a winning prototype, then another 10 months to produce it. You know, it's you need 18 months of runway, and companies don't have 18 months of runway right now, right? So
You get why I'm fucking poor.
but this is also a thing about what you're saying about the VC landscape, Claire. Like the VC landscape, it actually, like in the last couple of months, is starting to improve. Like there has been some more notable sort of announcements, investments and stuff like that, which is good. But, you know, the last 18 months to 2 years, you know, the VCs did dry up, right? And, you know, they're also betting on the really safe horses. You know, they don't want to take a lot more risks, right? And especially, you know, if we factor in like diversity into this.
And John, another thing, like when they don't take risk, I want to say as well, because you know I'm super vocal, they're also investing in other VCs. Like I'm seeing it so much. Like either you are ex Riot and so on and so on,
Yes.
either it's a pilot guy saying, "Hey, I'm going to do games."
Yeah, and look, this is the thing, right? Like VCs, they have this script kind of thing. It's like, hey, okay, so what's the heritage? Who are you? What have you done before? Oh, you've exited a company. Fantastic. We'll invest in you, right? And then it becomes like, okay, you know, if you're let's take you, for example. You're someone who's been in the industry for a while. You're a woman. You're part of the LGBTQ community. You know, things are already tough for you, right? Like already in this industry, it's tough for you. And then if, you know, if they dig in more and they say, even though you've got a fantastic heritage, Claire, in the sense of you've worked at Rovio, you did carry first, you did all this stuff. Even then, there will be like question marks as to, oh, this is not you. This is your first business, right? You've not built the company, you've not posted huge revenues. Oh, so like, and you know, in tough times when VCs are investing even less, that makes it even harder for them to invest in you, which means that you have to bootstrap. And this is the thing: if you can bootstrap right now, it's actually better for you long term. Because trying to raise money now, they'll try and take so much of your business for raising a small amount of money that you end up losing in the long term, just because of the current situation in the market, which is kind of unfair, really.
100%. And I'm actually really fortunate that I can bootstrap and I can finance the team that is in MENA. But there is actually some studio, you know, based in some countries that don't even have, you know, like the ability to advance the money, like, you know, paying Unity, good PvP services and so on and so on. And I think that's where publisher comes in and are a real source of hope for the diversity of our industry and also new success at the end of the day. How do you position Kwalee into this?
Oh man, so I think like from my perspective with Kwalee, like we're trying to generally, like, you know, the Kwalee mission statement is to make the most fun games for the world's players, and that is kind of the way that we want to live as a business, right? And this is the way we want to. So a lot of other publishers and VCs, I think it's all about, say, the metrics, right? It's like they don't care about what the game is, and if it's a fun game, they really care about just, okay, is this game going to make loads of money, right? It becomes it's more of you of a banker and more of a finance background that I used to be, versus like being someone that's passionate and interested in games, right? Luckily for us, we are a sort of a privately funded business, and because of David's previous success, he's very passionate about us being, investing in the right studios that are building the right games, and again, the most fun games for the world's players. How do we take fun games and put them in tens or hundreds of millions of hands worldwide? Equally, this doesn't just mean tier one countries, right? Like, this doesn't just mean we're focusing on US and UK and France. It's really important for us to get, the products and the games out to the rest of the market, which is also why we've been focusing heavily on the MENA region for the last sort of 6 months, and we've done a lot of work there. Because for us, it's like extremely important that we support these people that have been like, when we have hundreds of millions of players, like we've done 1.5 billion downloads globally. Out of that, we have hundreds of millions of players, over that lifetime that came from tier 2 or tier 3 countries, sorry. And again, the MENA region is one that's been kind of left out in the cold, Claire, for too long. And for us, we've been traveling quite a lot to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. We've been working with the NEOM sort of accelerator. We've been going out to the market and actually joining approval panels to get funding from the local governments for studios, right? And we've been part of this. So I have to have a shout out to Wakas and Saeed from my team that have been doing all of this traveling to the region. Without these guys, it would not have been possible to achieve what we have in that market already. And we're also gearing up to travel. There was the Moroccan Games Summit last week or the week before, which sadly we couldn't make the timings work, but we would have loved to have gone out to Morocco for this event. There's other events that are going on, in other places, Egypt, Algeria, UAE. There's a lot of going on there, Claire. And these people, whilst they don't have the expertise because of the experience that we have in Europe, they've also not been tainted by like this leadership or this, okay, this is how you build games. So people are coming up with true originality, right? They're not just trying to mimic what other people have done and do iterations. They're trying to come up with real firsts. And this is why people should take note of what's going on in MENA, right? Because I guarantee over the next couple of years, these people will catch up to where we are in Europe, and you'll start to see them having games in the top of the charts, and it will bring something different to the market that we haven't seen before. And that's what I'm really excited about, is giving those people the opportunity. And also, I want to be part of the early adopters because I know this is going to happen. So yeah, this is what we're trying to do right now at Kwalee.
I love it. And actually, Kwalee is one of the leading publisher, I think, in user base in DAU in the Africa already. I didn't check Middle East, but it's really impressive. And kudos to you. I'm really excited about this, John, and I hope you will need to come back in my podcast to speak especially about it. Thank you for having been with us. I know your time is super precious, and it was a joy, to be honest, to have your learning, but also, kind of hope for what is going next in game development. And I think you perfectly said it. Like, there is a lot of new things in the pipeline, and I can't wait to see what you are building and making in the region with Kwalee. John, thank you so much. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, I did. And Claire, I just want to say, look, keep doing what you're doing, right? Like, keep being the advocate for the underdog and the small guy, right? Because it's so important that everyone gets a voice in this industry. And I think that you're one of the people that are really trying to make some positive change in this area. And we need more of that.
And we need more of you, John. And I hope you will come back because we have a lot to say again. And it was an amazing podcast. Take care, John. And thank you, everyone, for listening. It was John Wright, the amazing person you can follow in LinkedIn. He's posting daily insights. So don't hesitate to follow him. And take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us next time for more insight into the world of gaming. Until then, keep playing and stay inspired. Claire from RZAIN Society.